Welcome to the Football Forecast, your ultimate guide to the NFL week ahead. Get ready as we dive deep into the biggest matchups, analyze key player performances, and break down the strategies that could make or break your favorite team's chances. Whether you're looking to dominate your fantasy league, make smart picks and bets, or simply stay ahead of the game, we've got you covered with insights and predictions. So buckle up, football fans. It's time to get your game face on for another action-packed week in the NFL. While only one team can hoist the trophy at the end, it all starts with the forecast. All right, here we go for part 3 of our Empty the Bench Network football forecast preview. You got the NFC, you got the AFC, and now we got to do the awards stuff. We do this every year. We do awards, we do hot takes, we give you a few takes here and there that we think are going to happen throughout the season. We have most of us here. Grant, Zain, Tom, Anthony, myself. We were all like a little bit of a mix in between the AFC and the AFC. Now we come together and we do this award show and preview. So before we get through all that, just to help you find everything, we're going to have a little scrolling banner. On the audio side, you won't see this, so I'll just say, make sure you like and subscribe to the Empty the Bench Network on YouTube, youtube.com/ETB Network. If you want to follow us on social media for this show, this time we have social media for our show. That is at TFB Forecast ETB. That's the football forecast. And you'll find everything we're doing this season, whether it's our big picks show, whether it's Thursday night football, Sunday, Monday picks, and other news and stuff that comes out on social media, excuse me, as well. Also, this show presented by Playback. Watching sports is more fun with others, but we spend too much of our time watching alone. Playback is a virtual space where communities can stream live sports together with everyone perfectly synced up. Creators can hop on stage, deliver their own play-by-play analysis and commentary, and invite viewers up for Q&A. Playback makes watching sports fully interactive and a social experience, from playing fantasy sports, repping your favorite players and teams, and watching with the commentators and communities you care about. Win or lose, sports are best enjoyed together. Join our community by going to playback.tv/ETB Network to find out more, including our live stream schedule. And we've been very busy on the Playback front, working on all that stuff. We've had WWE in the past. We did WNBA in the past week. We are efforting for the NFL and college football to do streams on that, waiting for that to be cleared as well. Also, as we get closer to Major League Baseball, we'll try to do some playoff games in there as well. So a lot coming up. Just make sure you join our community, playback.tv/ETB Network, for more. All right. So let's get underway. And this is, as I'll let Tom describe this because he put this stuff together. So this is our award.
Okay. So what we're going to do today is basically go over. So obviously the AFC guys went over the AFC yesterday. The NFC guys went over the NFC a couple days ago. Now we're going to do some other stuff. So we're going to start with awards. We're not going to go through every single award that they hand out at the NFL Honors in February, but we will go through the MVP, Coach of the Year, Offensive and Defensive Players of the Year, Offensive and Defensive Rookies of the Year, and the Comeback Player of the Year. We're going to give an early if we have to pick one guy during the preseason for each of those, who we're going to pick and why. We'll give who our most overrated and underrated teams are, who will get the number 1 overall pick in the NFL draft. In other words, who will be the worst team this season. We'll give our early AFC and NFC title game and Super Bowl predictions and our hot takes for the upcoming season. So this is going to be basically the everything else. Early or very early postseason picks and predictions, award predictions, and so forth. All right, so let's get started, guys. We're going to start at the top of the awards chain. Let's start with the NFL MVP. So, as we're sitting here on the evening of August 28th, gentlemen, if you have to pick one person who you think, as before the season starts, is going to end up being named the MVP of this season, who do you think it is and why? Let's start with Zan.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of obviously interesting choices on both the NFC side and the AFC side, but to me, I feel like one of the most obvious choices that you have to go with is, I think the Kansas City Chiefs are out to try to make some history to become the first three-peat champion, and the only way you could have a chance to do that is when you have an MVP-like season from your quarterback. So I'm going to take Patrick Mahomes to win the NFL MVP for 2024. And actually, the Chiefs are going to be in my Super Bowl representing one of the Super Bowl as the AFC Conference champion and AFC representative. So I'm going to go that far in saying that Mahomes is going to be able to lead the Chiefs to prominence again.
Grant?
Yeah, I completely agree with everything that Zahn just said. I mean, for me, it's either between Patrick Mahomes or Lamar Jackson because of the fact that they, improved their rushing attack with the signing of Derrick Henry. So not all the heat will be on Lamar Jackson, but I still believe that he will put up MVP type numbers, as a runner and possibly a passer, but probably more with a runner than a passer. So it's either Lamar Jackson or Pat Mahomes.
If you had to pick one.
Just so I don't go with the same with Zahn, I'll say Lamar Jackson.
Lamar? Okay. Anthony?
I think both of those are two great selections. Honestly, I'm going to go with a new guy. Obviously, everybody knows the Kansas City Chiefs are the top team. It's going to be hard for Pat Mahomes to win it again. And it's going to be hard for Lamar Jackson, even harder for him to probably win it again. We don't see, guys win it back-to-back like that. And, we see guys, when you have a dominating player like we see in basketball with LeBron James or Tom Brady in the NFL, they're the best player in the league and everybody knows it. But very rarely do they win the MVP every single year. So it's hard to pick those guys. So I'm going to go with a new guy on the block. I'm going to go with C.J. Stroud. They're bringing in Stephon Diggs. I think they got a great receiving core. And I think just the story of the Houston Texans alone is going to put C.J. Stroud in it. He was probably a top 10 MVP candidate, at least as a rookie. Now I think he's going to have better numbers. They're going to be a better team. They're probably going to be the third best team in the AFC behind Baltimore and Kansas City, in my opinion. And I think being the third seed, probably winning 11 games, and C.J. Stroud having great numbers, I think will be enough to give him the MVP.
I agree with Anthony, by the way. I actually have C.J. Stroud as the MVP of the league as well. Yes, I'm going outside the box. Usually that's not my thing on the awards side, but I think what Anthony said was correct. It's going to be hard for Patrick Mahomes or Lamar Jackson to win it again after you win. I don't like it. I don't like that the media uses you winning the award as a reason for you not to win the award again. But I think CJ Stroud is going to come out and just own it and have an amazing year.
So just to clarify, you're not picking Lamar Jackson?
No, I'm not. I'm picking CJ Stroud.
Okay.
As my MVP.
Okay.
And I'm going to agree with you and Anthony. I'm also going to say CJ Stroud will win the MVP. I know not everybody on our staff, particularly talking about Nick Martino, was very high on the Texans in terms of their offseason, what the outlook could be like, fearing the potential of a CJ Stroud sophomore slump. But in my mind, I think the Texans had an amazing season last season, given the fact that they had a lot of inexperience, given the fact that there was a lot of rookies and a lot of youth on that team, and they really developed well. Actually ended up making it to the second round of the playoffs. You had those concerns about what CJ Stroud would do against a tough defense like the Cleveland Browns offered in the first round, and he absolutely torched them. So to think about what he can do now with Tank Dell being healthy and being back, the acquisition of Stephon Diggs. I know there's concern about Stephon Diggs potentially being a headache, but but I think Stephon Diggs is going to understand his role in that team, being a veteran presence. You know, he can still be a playmaker, but being a veteran presence to guys like Tank Dell, guys like Nico Collins, and they added Joe Mixon, excellent running back coming over from Cincinnati. I think this team is built. This team is really built to put up such a big fight. And CJ Stroud, I don't think there's going to be a sophomore slump. I think he's just going to improve to the point where, guys, I'll be honest, and I don't want to spoil everything because we still have our playoff picks to talk about, but I could honestly see the Texans making an AFC Championship run.
Interesting.
All right. So I think we have some pretty interesting explanations and picks with the MVP, although not really any surprise nominations there. I mean, it's Lamar Jackson, Pat Mahomes, and CJ Stroud. Like I said, I know CJ Stroud might be the odd one out of those, but he it's kind of earned after the season that he had. Some other potential names: Nick DiMartino actually went with Josh Allen as an MVP. Ben was in agreement. He went with Patrick Mahomes.
Okay.
I don't understand the Josh Allen one, but well, that's another topic for another time. Let's go down now over to Coach of the Year, and Grant, we'll start with you. Which coach do you think will make an impact on their team and enough to be awarded Coach of the Year?
This is a hard question. I have not thought about it at all, but I'm gonna go with a little bit of a curveball, at least in my personal opinion, because he hasn't been in the league for a couple of years. So I'm gonna say Jim Harbaugh. I think Jim Harbaugh is a good pick for Coach of the Year because I mean he when he was in San Francisco, he was one power outage away from being a Super Bowl champion, and that was against his brother. Fun fact for people who didn't watch that game. And I mean, just the way that he has looked in press conferences and the reporters have been talking about him, I think he could be a very good candidate for Coach of the Year.
I mean, that definitely is going to have to depend upon the success of the Chargers. And I know just stemming from the AFC preview show the other day, a lot of split opinions about that Chargers team. So it's definitely going to be a little questionable as to what happens there with Jim Harbaugh. I like Jim.
You could argue too that that's a potential hot take too, considering that Harbaugh is fresh back in the NFL again.
Yeah, obviously, Coach of the Year is a tough award to predict. Obviously, it could go a million different ways. And it's not necessarily a award. I sound like I'm repeating myself, but not necessarily goes to the best coach. It usually goes to the best story. What coach got their team, the biggest jump from one season to the next. Obviously, that means the Atlanta Falcons' new head coach, Raheem Morris, jumps out at you because obviously Atlanta's probably going to potentially win that division. But it's hard for me to predict Raheem Morris to win that, Coach of the Year, even though that seems like the perfect storyline. But honestly, I really like the Houston Texans, and I'm going to go DeMeco Ryans to get head coach of the year.
Wow. Didn't see that one coming. I don't know. There's a lot of the Jim Harbaugh one was a curveball to me.
Yeah,
like
that definitely is.
Because again, readjusting to the NFL, even though he's been an NFL coach, I wouldn't put it past him to win Coach of the Year. I mean, I decided to pull up some of the gambling odds for Coach of the Year also, just to kind of see what they're kind of predicting. They actually have Jim Harbaugh at the top of the list for the betting odds favorite, which
I did not look at that. I just went on a whim.
No, I believe you. I don't know. This is a tough one. I mean, maybe I don't know. I'm forgetting maybe Shanahan for the Niners could be a possible option if he can actually get them over the hump and win.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's kind of where I'm leaning. They really don't typically give it to a younger coach unless you're Sean McVay. Sure. Yeah, I guess I'm going to lean Shanahan because I think they're going to finally lead them over the hump finally this year.
Interesting. Would you like me to go next?
Yeah.
Okay, so I haven't really thought about this too much either, and this might be a really, really, really hot take, just considering that he's been around in the NFL for a very long time, and he's at a team that very rarely, if ever, has a losing season. And this is going to be the curveball of all curveballs. I'm taking Mike Tomlin to win Coach of the Year for the Steelers. I think that if there's anybody that can figure out if Russell Wilson has anything left in the tank, it's him. What's up?
No, he was shocked.
No. I know it's not only a Coach of the Year, but it's a hot take. I think that Pittsburgh will be better than people think, and I think that playing in the AFC North is always tough. I think Pittsburgh is a bit of a favorable schedule through the first half of the year, and I also think that Mike Tomlin gets way too much flack just considering that his teams are somewhat average every so often. But I feel like he sort of goes against the norm as to what the typical Coach of the Year is usually, relatively young coaches. This is a guy who's a veteran, and nobody really expects Pittsburgh to do anything special. I actually think they're going to be have a decent this year. I don't know if they're going to be a fringe playoff team or not, but I think he has potential. I was partially kidding, but I would say if it isn't Mike Tomlin as my quote unquote curveball pick, that's not going to be my actual pick. I would more than likely say that the Coach of the Year, I think that would probably be a decent candidate. This will be my final pick, just considering where we're at timing wise. I'll probably end up going with Raheem Morris for the Atlanta Falcons, considering that I did pick the Falcons to win the NFC South.
All right, Tom had some tech issues. He had to step away. He's going to work on those. I'll assume the rest of the way. We're going to move on to our next 2024-25 NFL award predictions, Offensive Player of the Year. There's a lot of choices for this one. Anthony, what do you think about for Offensive Player of the Year?
Yeah, like you said, there's a lot of choices. I'm going to go with CeeDee Lamb. I was obviously more confident with CeeDee Lamb before he got the contract, being in a contract year. But even after getting the contract, I think CeeDee Lamb is going to put up great numbers. Dak Prescott's also in the contract year, so also I think that's going to help CeeDee Lamb. So I'm going to go with CeeDee Lamb for Offensive Player of the Year this year.
Okay, Grant.
I am going to agree with him on that. I'm going to say CeeDee Lamb as well for all the same reasons. He got his contract, and I mean, I do agree that someone going into a contract year should want to play better, but now that he's gotten his contract, he has to show that he's worth that much. So,
okay, Zan.
Yeah, it's a tough pick. A lot of interesting choices, as we just alluded to, but in my opinion, though, in order to best serve their team and to try to do the best they can to go to the Super Bowl, I think I'm going to be in unanimous agreement. I think now that CeeDee Lamb just got his contract, there's no way he doesn't have a kind of a mini revenge tour season. That for anybody who doubted him, he's still one of the best receivers in football, and even if Dallas doesn't make the Super Bowl, he's going to be the anchor that makes that offense go. So,
yep,
that's all good theory. I mean, obviously with CeeDee Lamb, I mean, the one thing I would question is sometimes when players get their contract, they do kind of relax partially statistically.
Yeah, that's true.
And that kind of worries me a little bit. According to the gambling odds, they actually have Tyreek Hill at the top of the list as the Offensive of the Year betting favorite. I don't know how much I like the Dolphins, though. I had them as a division winner, but he gets hurt a ton. He gets injured a ton, and that worries me as him being the favorite. Christian McCaffrey, who I also like, could do it on both sides. In the running game. He can catch passes, but I just think there's too many offensive weapons, and it's too easy, as Anthony would say, it's too easy to give him the award with all the offensive weapons. So I guess in theory, we're all going to agree and say CeeDee Lamb is probably going to be the Offensive Player of the Year, but it's going to rely on Dak having a good year on top of it. So
but that's the one in the contract year, so that's why it helps.
True. So if Dak has a good year, then I think it's because of CeeDee Lamb. That's just my prediction off the top, right there. Okay. Moving on to defensive player of the year. Now we're talking the aggressive side of the ball. Zan, what do you have for a defensive player of the year?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many choices to pick from here. I mean, you have so much unbelievable defensive talent, no matter where you look on pretty much every team. But well, I do think you have to look based on merit, and if you're gonna go with CeeDee Lamb as the offensive player of the year, and they're one of the favorite picks to win the Super Bowl, it's hard to go with Micah Parsons to have his best year as a pro, and I think he'll do exactly that. I mean, this is a Cowboys team that now all the pressure is on them to be the best team they've been in a couple decades. And when you have CeeDee Lamb getting a max contract and you have all the talent that they have coming back, and they were even my NFC East champion on the NFC preview, if you guys heard it the other day. I like it to be an all Dallas affair for the offensive and defensive player of the year. So give me Micah Parsons.
The one question I will ask you, though, is do you think the contract situation is going to come into play with Micah Parsons? The way he plays?
I mean, there's a chance. There's a chance for sure, but what I don't believe is known is if he can fully tune all that noise out and tune all the hype out. That'll be the big question.
I mean, that would only help his case, right? If he won
Right.
Defensive Player of the Year.
Yes.
Anthony, what do you think?
Zan, I knew I was gonna love talking football with you because I agree with you again. I'm gonna go Micah Parsons as well. Honestly, I think when healthy the last few years, I think TJ Watt has been the best defensive player. I think he's been robbed a few times, but he's been injured. And when he's been injured, Myles Garrett has probably been the best defensive player. But I think since Micah Parsons has entered the league, I've been pretty much waiting for him to establish himself as the best defensive player in football. I think it's just a matter of time, and I think this is going to be the year where he does it. And I agree. I'm going to go Micah Parsons to win Defensive Player of the Year as well.
Grant?
I am actually going to pick someone that was mentioned just a minute ago. I am going to pick TJ Watt. I understand that he is hurt a lot, but I think this year, if he can stay healthy, he's always been a wreck on the defensive side of the ball. So I believe if he can stay healthy, that he will show that he is defensive player of the year material.
So when I look at the list, Micah Parsons, I mean, all these guys have had injuries. Even Parsons has had injuries. I mean, Parsons had injuries. Watt has had a ton of injuries. And like Anthony said, he probably would have won Defensive Player of the Year 2 or 3 times if it wasn't for injuries. Bosa's been injured. Max Crosby's been injured. Myles Garrett's been injured. All the top 5 have been injured or injury prone in some way, shape, or form. If Micah Parsons can have a Defensive Player of the Year type of year, and I know we're getting ahead of ourselves, but if CeeDee Lamb could have his year and Micah Parsons could have his year, maybe the Cowboys could actually go further and not get eliminated the first round and actually make a run. So if we're talking in theory that CeeDee Lamb is going to be Offensive Player of the Year and Micah Parsons is going to be defensive, it better be a big year for Dallas in that case.
Oh, yeah.
I know I didn't get to be on the NFC video, Nick, but I got the Dallas Cowboys winning the NFC East this year. I think they're going to be a better team than the Eagles, and a lot of that has to do with what I said about those players.
And again, I think we're all in agreement here. I'm going to take Parsons as Defensive Player of the Year as well. All right, moving on to the Offensive Rookie of the Year. This is interesting, too. A lot of good choices in this category as well. Zan, what do you think for Offensive Rookie of the Year?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to come down to a bunch of different options here. I think you're going to look at all different facets, and I actually think the top 3 are going to come out of the NFC, and 2 of them are going to be from the same team, and it's going to be tough to see what the voters choose. But if the hype is real and everyone's excited about the Bears as I am, and as Grant is, and as is most of the country, there's no way you can't pick a franchise generational talent in Caleb Williams. I mean, the Bears have not had this good of a quarterback prospect in their franchise's history. Everyone's expecting, between an 8 to 11 win season. They have the newfound regime to do it. And he's the guy. So if he wants to go prove that he's the man, go win Offensive Rookie of the Year. So,
yeah, I mean, a lot of hype. And when I say a lot of hype, I would say even a little overhype, a little bit, in my opinion.
I'd say sort of that too.
And don't get me wrong, Caleb, if I could speak, Caleb Williams had a great year for USC. My gripes with him are more off the field and a lot of the drama that he caused off the field. And he's a really good football player. That's really what we should care about at this point. What's on the field, what's off the field is off the field. The Bears the Bears could win double-digit games for the first time in how many years? When's the last time they won double-digit games?
2018.
Wow. I didn't think it was
second to last time they made the playoffs, because they made the playoffs in 2020, but they were a sub 500 team that year.
So we're talking about like a phenomenon, like coming back in a big way and really winning. I look at the rest of the list. Jaden Daniels is not winning Offensive Rookie of the Year. That team is got question marks. Marvin Harrison Jr. has to get on the field before he can do anything, because he's having that. What is it? The controversy with the jersey and the licensing issue he's having with the jersey. Bo Nix is not winning Rookie of the Year. Just not happening. And everyone else is far away. So here's what I'll say about this. He's going to win, and he's going to win by a landslide. That's what I'm going to say right now. I don't think there's anyone in the vicinity to win the award. So that's where I see it. Grant, I'm assuming you're probably going to go the same way.
I'm going to go the same way because, I mean, you know, he was the number one draft pick basically since the start of last season. So, you know, I mean, and he comes into a situation with, you know, the best receiving core a rookie quarterback has probably ever walked into in TJ Moore, Keenan Allen, and Rowan Duze, which I believe is the other person that Zain meant by there's two people in the NFC. But honestly, he's going to win by a landslide. Most of the time, the Offensive Rookie of the Year is the number one overall draft pick, and most of the time, that is a quarterback.
Okay, Anthony?
Yeah, I know we're going to talk about hot takes later, but I have to give one of them up right now. I echoed a lot of what you guys said. I absolutely love Caleb Williams. I think Caleb Williams is going to win it by a landslide. And one of my hot takes is I think Caleb Williams is going to have a better rookie season than C.J. Stroud did last year. I love Caleb Williams.
Okay.
I remember Caleb Williams being the top quarterback coming out of high school, and the guy went to Oklahoma, and they already had a guy that was supposed to be an NFL-type quarterback in Spencer Rattler. Well, it didn't take much time for Caleb Williams to force that team to make him the starting quarterback and get him on the field, and he's pretty much been, lightning since then. He's been great at both schools. I know he tends to hold on to the ball a lot, which could lead to some sacks. He plays a lot of background football, and I think, they'll make him perfectly sound. I think he'll make some adjustments. I think he'll get the ball out quicker with those weapons. I mean, how many number one pick quarterbacks have the weapons that he has? Most of the time, these quarterbacks have no talent around them because they're picking number one for a reason. Chicago got the luxury of getting the number one pick via the Carolina Panthers. So the Bears weren't necessarily the worst team in the league by a long shot. They were actually pretty decent. They added on that. So I think Caleb Williams is going to be lightning. He's going to have one of, if not the best rookie season ever for a quarterback. And I think the Bears are going to make the playoffs.
All right. I hope you're right. Because Chicago is starving for a home playoff game. So I hope you are right.
If he wins by a landslide, they better, more than a wild card, they better win a division. At least
that's going to be the hard part.
That's the best division in the NFC, I believe, with Detroit and Green Bay. Even with finishing third in the division, I wouldn't be surprised if that division has 3 playoff teams.
It is a good division. All right, moving on. Defensive Rookie of the Year. Now, I will admit I don't know many of these names right up front. Again, Anthony is like more the college guy. He would know some of these guys better than me. So why don't you start, Anthony, because you know these guys for sure.
2 guys that stand out. One is in Indianapolis. That's Latu. He's going to have to replace Indianapolis's top pass rusher since they lost him to injury. So they're going to depend a lot on him. The guy I actually like the most is a guy who played at Alabama and looked pretty good in preseason. I like Dallas Turner. I think he's a good edge rusher. He's got super great talent. He played alongside Will Anderson Jr., who was a great guy who won Defensive Rookie last year. And, Dallas Turner is almost as good as Will Anderson Jr. So I think I'm going to go with Dallas Turner right now.
All right, Grant.
I like all of Anthony's points, but I am actually going to go to the guy that will most likely be replacing Aaron Donald, and that is Jared Verse. Aaron Donald was a force to be reckoned with in the league for 10 years. Personally, I was very surprised when I saw him retire. But the Rams were smart. They immediately got his replacement, and I think he's going to wreak havoc there.
Zan?
Yeah, this is tough. I was going back and forth between a bunch of different picks. I think there's a lot of. I think there's a chance that there could be there could be a lot of promise with a lot of these guys. I really don't think you can fully say until the season officially starts. But even though this team isn't going to be very good, I think that Dallas Turner has a chance to make a lot of noise. Minnesota maybe not the most competitive team, but I think his speed off the edge. He played at Alabama, and he played for Nick Saban. He was super disciplined. He may not be on the greatest team right now, but I think he has a chance to be a force to be reckoned with for years, and I think he has a wonderful rookie season to start.
Yeah, I'm going to lean that way too, Dallas Turner. I know the Vikings don't have a lot to play for. I mean, if J.J. McCarthy was healthy and we have a whole different scenario, maybe they are playing for something different. But with Sam Darnold in your way, you're not winning very much. But defense, I think he's going to be in the spotlight a lot for the Vikings. Obviously, like you said, Nick Saban discipline, obviously going to play tough and hard and read the playbook, do all that stuff. So I'm going to lead with Dallas Turner on that one too. Okay. On to the comeback player of the year. Now, this one, I'm sure everyone could have fun with this award, to be quite honest. Grant, what do you think about comeback player of the year?
This one is probably the hardest one to predict because, I don't remember any big, you guys have any suggestions for big injuries that happened last year? I'm kind of blanking on big injuries that
I can give you a few names that a lot of people are going to say, well, I'm not surprised by who the gambling favorite is if I can find it over here on my board.
I'm picking Nick.
Is Kirk Cousins a potential option? Because I would love to go with him if he is.
All right, so he's third according to the gambling odds.
See, I'm picking him. I think that he turns Atlanta around, and I think he wins the division. So,
I mean, he'll definitely win games. He's a regular season quarterback by trade. What he does after the regular season is a whole different issue. Anthony, what do you think?
I'm going to go with your boy, Nick. I'm going Aaron Rodgers. I mean, how could it not be Aaron Rodgers? I mean, the guy's going to come back. I think he's going to play a full season. Obviously, you heard me in the AFC video. I'm all over the Jets. So I think Aaron Rodgers is going to have a huge bounce back year. So I'm going to go with Aaron Rodgers for this one.
Well, I hate Aaron Rodgers, so I will not be picking Aaron Rodgers. So I'm gonna go with Zain's answer as well. I believe that the Falcons were honestly the right place for Kirk Cousins to go to. Now, what were they doing with picking Michael Penix after they signed him to his lucrative contract? But I think he's got great weapons in there. Finally, and finally they have a coaching staff that will most likely use those weapons correctly, which hadn't happened for the last 5 or 6 years for some odd reason. But I think Kirk Cousins is a great option for comeback player of the year.
See, this is a tough one for me because the two at the top of the gambling odds are two that I absolutely destroyed in our AFC preview. I destroyed Aaron Rodgers. I said they're going to be an under 500 team, which we'll go into more when we get to hot takes. Joe Burrow is number 2. And Anthony knows this. I absolutely destroyed the Bengals, because I just think there's a chemistry imbalance in that locker room. So I guess in theory, because I don't like the rest of the names, I guess I'm going Kirk Cousins. I think Atlanta's going to have a better year. I don't understand, like everyone else said, the Michael Penix move. Why did you draft him when you knew you were getting Kirk Cousins on $100 million deal? Like, I don't understand that.
Well, probably because they didn't think that the depth chart, if you will, was I guess depthful enough without a splash in the draft. That's probably why.
Honestly, I love the draft pick of Michael Penix. I think it makes a lot of sense. You have a quarterback for now, and you have a quarterback for the future. And with all the quarterback injuries, having a good backup quarterback may be like the 10th or 11th most valuable thing you could have in this league.
That's true.
But how great will he be? Because Michael Penix had 2 ACL tears, and also, so that's a question mark. But it's gonna be good. We'll see.
I don't know. We'll see how Penix goes, but I don't know. I guess we're all leaning in on Kirk for the most part here. All right, moving on. Most overrated team. Now, this could be funny. There could be some controversy here. Zan, I'll go to you. Most overrated team.
Oh, Bills, 100%.
Oh,
I think that even though Josh Allen is really good, this is still the team that can't win the big one. This is the team where everybody's hyping them up at the end of the year. Oh yeah, the Bills are going to win 13 games. They're going to win the AFC East, and then every year, or at least the last couple of years, they get to that 6-6 mark, and it's like, geez, they're back to being the same old Bills again of like 10 years ago. I'm telling you, if Tua Tagovailoa has a 100% healthy season, there is no way the Bills can even compete with Miami. So for those reasons alone, I'm taking the Bills to be the most overrated team. And this is a team that I think is a very fringe playoff team, and it might actually miss the playoffs depending on several tiebreakers that happen throughout the other divisions. So just keep that in mind.
Wow. Did not expect that answer at all. So Anthony, I'll let you respond on that one if you want first.
Yeah, Zan, I don't know what you're hearing outside of Buffalo, but we're not really being too hyped that season. I don't know too many people who are picking Buffalo to go really far. I know a lot of people know we lost Stephon Diggs. We don't have Matt Milano probably for most of the season. So I think most people know that this is kind of a step back here. I've been saying it all along. We're going to take one step back to take 2 steps forward in a year or two. There's a lot of moving parts, a lot of young pieces. So I don't think there's that much hype. And you said it reminds you of the Bills 10 years ago. I'm not sure if you were living in Buffalo, but 10 years ago, we were on a playoff drought where we didn't make the playoffs for almost 20 years. So I like at least make it to the second round every year than, not making the playoffs for 20 years. But I don't have a lot of, faith in the Bills this year. Like I said, they are going to be probably a fringe, wild card team.
I'm sorry, Anthony. I didn't mean to cut you off. So are you saying that you guys are okay with being another version of the 90s Chiefs? Because that's exactly what the 90s Chiefs did. So I'm just curious.
I think when you live in Buffalo and Super Bowls aren't really going to be a huge probability. I think in my opinion, I'm happy just to be playing playoff games every year.
Fair enough. I was just getting you. I was just getting you riled up just to see what you would say.
That was interesting. Grant, most overrated team.
I don't do this overrated or underrated, but I'm gonna take the Bills as well because
wow.
Their only weapon, or in my opinion, is Josh Allen. And Josh Allen is a great quarterback, but he's always had good receivers, and Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis and whoever else was their third last year. I don't know who that was. but I mean, I don't know if we're gonna see a repeat of when they missed the playoffs for 20 years. I hope not, because I like watching them in the playoffs. But I definitely could see them taking a step back.
All right, it's down to me. Now, I was thinking a few teams here, but I think we all know where I'm probably leaning on this one. So, the most overrated team to me is the Cincinnati Bengals. And
didn't you say this last year though too? And you were
and
right.
was I right?
Yes.
Everyone poo-pooed me last year. That video went completely viral, Zan, if you remember last year when I said that they were going to be bad. And part of that was because of the Burrow injury, because he just was not 100% healthy. Now, they could say he's 100% healthy. I don't think he's 100% healthy. I think there's going to be compensating for the injury. And I don't know if I really trust that offensive line. They almost had him killed last year behind that offensive line. That still scares me. I think even though Jamar, well, now we're getting reports that originally he showed up, now he's out the door again and not there. So you have that issue going on in your locker room. You have T. Higgins, who's the next one up on that list, and you're going to have issues with him. He's probably going to hit the market because you can't tag him again because he's already been tagged.
Right.
So there's going to be chemistry issues going on within that locker room.
Okay.
I think they're going to be a 7-10 team this year. I just don't see them. I think there's going to be far too many issues for this team to go anywhere this year.
Okay.
All right. The opposite. Most underrated team for this year. Grant, what do you think for most underrated team for this year?
Oh my God! I might have to go on websites to look at my options. Sorry.
You want me to come back to you?
Sure.
All right, Anthony, go ahead.
I mean, I'm not sure if you could really say that they're underrated, but as a team that echoed before, the Chicago Bears, I really think that they're going to make the playoffs. I know there is some hype, but I don't think necessarily a lot of people are locking them in for the playoffs. I really think they're going to make the playoffs and be a very, very competitive team. Maybe even with Caleb Williams' talent, maybe even sneak a playoff win. But yeah, I really think the Bears are the most underrated team this year with all the young talent that they have.
Okay, Zan.
Yeah, I mean, this is interesting. If you can't tell by the theme here, I'm liking this new look Atlanta Falcons team. I think that they're the most underrated team in football. I think you give me a healthy Kirk Cousins and you give me Raheem Morris with an underrated defense, this team should be pretty good, and this team should win a manageable NFC South. The Saints are okay. The Panthers are still in major rebuild mode, and Tampa Bay still has Baker Mayfield and Mike Evans. So I think the division is going to come down to those two Atlanta Falcons, Tampa Bay Buccaneers games, and if they split the season series, I think it'll be one based on tiebreakers. So for those reasons alone, I like the Atlanta Falcons as my most underrated team.
You know what? I was gonna copy Anthony after he said the Bears, but then Zain brought up the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I have to say they had a very sneaky offseason. They re-signed Baker Mayfield to $100 million contract after having him for on a 1-year rental, and he showed out with this team, and then they were smart with getting Mike Evans back for 2 years under 50, which, I mean, when he signed that deal, I was very impressed that he got under 50. But I mean, yeah, you basically get your big pieces on offense returning, and I think the Buccaneers are going to be a playoff team this year.
All right, I'll give you one that's usually off my radar, but I really like them. I'm going to say the Green Bay Packers are going to be the most underrated team. Obviously, the Lions are going to get most of the attention in that division, but we can't sleep on the Packers. I think they're going to have a good year. Jordan Love really came into his own in the second half of the year. Obviously, gets his major contract a little too early, in my opinion, but it is what it is. adding Josh Jacobs and Xavier McKinney into this team looks really, really good. I hope Josh Jacobs can have a turnaround season after being a little bit up and down injury-wise with the Raiders. Adding rookies like Jordan Morgan and Edrin Cooper, I think they're really good options that they really added in here. I would watch the Packers. I think that they're really going to hopefully take a step deeper into the playoffs, I'm hoping, this year. Okay. Now the fun begins. Who will get the number 1 pick in the 2025 NFL Draft? Anthony, Mr. Draft over there. What do you think about this one?
I mean, obviously, there's a lot of good options. You also got to take into account, what these teams are going to be going up against. So I think, being in the tougher conference in the AFC, I think it may be an AFC team because the teams are so stacked. So I'm going to go with the New England Patriots.
Wow.
I just think the AFC is just so stacked, and I think they're in such rebuild mode. They got a super young quarterback that I think eventually is going to start. He is talented in Drake May, but he's going to have his rookie mistakes. They still don't have an established number 1 receiver. Losing Matthew Judon is definitely going to affect their depth at pass rush. So I'm going to go with the New England Patriots. I just don't see how they compete in the tough AFC.
Zan?
Yeah, I think it's going to be the Vikings. I think this J.J. McCarthy injury was devastating. And just looking at their schedule holistically, this team is going to start 0-6, I think. I mean, this team is going nowhere fast. When you don't have a quarterback that's a game manager and can work the clock well and help win you close games, when you have the schedule the Vikings do, it's going to be bad news. So I'm going to go Vikings with the number 1 overall pick, Patriots with the 2, and Carolina with 3. So
it's interesting. Okay, Grant.
So mine is between 2, and I don't know if I could pick between the 2 of them. So one is the New York Giants because Daniel Jones is not the answer in New York, and he never has been. I didn't like him. I had him graded as a 2nd-round draft pick when he came out into the draft. And
he was definitely overdrafted. That's not even a question.
No question about that. And then my other one is the Carolina Panthers, just because I don't think they did enough adding to the offensive weapons for Bryce Young. They added enough offensive line help, but it's great that you protected your quarterback, but how much did you help him when you only traded for Deontay Johnson and Southern voiced receiver in Xavier Legette? I just don't think that there's enough talent there to get from 2 wins to 6 wins.
All right, who hasn't gone? Am I the only one who hasn't gone, or who else has gone? Okay. This is an interesting one for me. The Panthers, that's where I'm leaning. It's either the Panthers or the Broncos, because I think the Broncos are in a tough spot.
Broncos are a good option.
Because their quarterback room is a mess. I mean, I know they have Bo Nix. I know they drafted him. And who's your backup? Is it Zach Wilson? Is it? I don't know. I try not to have nightmares about that name anymore because it destroyed my Jets fandom for the last couple seasons. But what were the Panthers were 2-15 last year, right? I think.
Yes, correct.
So I don't see this team getting any better. That they didn't really do much to improve. Bryce Young's got some work to do to really improve on his game, but they need to get him some weapons. That's a huge problem.
But I got a question for you, Nick. In response to you picking the Panthers, would you say there's a highly likely chance that the Panthers can compete with a team like the Saints? And some of those teams, they're in the worst division in football. So do you think they have an easier an easier path to get wins than a team like the Patriots, who are in the same division as the New York Jets, the Miami Dolphins, and the Buffalo Bills?
No, I think you're 100% right. It all depends on what division you're in, and that makes it harder for you to get wins. I just think the Panthers are so bad that their owner doesn't care. Their owner is too worried about throwing beers on a crowd from inside a private box than actually worrying about the product that's actually on the field. So I don't know. I mean, I'll save it for the hot take, but I'll tell you that I think you'll know where I'm going with a record hot take on there. All right, let's move on here. AFC and NFC title games and very early Super Bowl predictions.
I'll start.
Go ahead.
So AFC Championship game, we're gonna go with the rematch of all rematches here: KC versus Baltimore, but only this time it's gonna be at Arrowhead and it's not gonna be at M&T Bank. I like the Chiefs to win in that one for the second straight year over the Ravens. And then in the NFC Championship game, this is going to be a little bit of a surprise, but I think it's going to be the 49ers over the Packers, but this time I think it's going to be the 49ers winning the game in overtime. Obviously, last year when these two teams played, last year in the divisional playoffs when these two teams played, it ended in regulation. I think it's going to be a shootout between Purdy and Jordan Love, and I think whoever has the ball is going to win. I think the 49ers get the ball in the first possession, they'll score, and then they'll stop the Packers to win the NFC Championship. So it's going to be a rematch in the Super Bowl for me. San Francisco versus Kansas City, and I think the Chiefs become the first team to three-peat. That's my early Super Bowl prediction.
All right, so you got a three-peat. Anthony, what do you think here?
Yeah, so, just to give you my, complete outlook for the AFC, I got the Chiefs, Ravens, Texans, Jets winning the division. I got the Bengals, Dolphins, Bills as my wild card teams. NFC, I got the 49ers, Lions, Cowboys, Falcons winning the divisions. I got the Eagles, Packers, and Bears as my wild card teams. And honestly, I know this is probably unlikely and probably hasn't really happened, but it's hard to pick against these four teams. I think we're going to get a rematch in both. I think we're going to get the Kansas City Chiefs and the Baltimore Ravens in the AFC. And I really do like the 49ers and the Detroit Lions again in the NFC. I think the Chiefs are going to win again against Baltimore. I think the 49ers are going to win against Detroit. But I think the Super Bowl is going to be different. I think the Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers with all that talent is finally going to get over the hump. That roster is just way too talented. Kyle Shanahan is way too good of an offensive mind for that team not to get a Super Bowl in this era. So I think the 49ers finally get it done over the Chiefs. I'm in a rematch, so I'm going to go with the 49ers over the Chiefs in the Super Bowl.
Okay.
So it's going to be Anthony, you're picking the 49ers to win their first Super Bowl in 31 years. Is that correct?
Yes.
Wow. Okay. Grant, what do you think?
I am actually going to copy, and I hate to be a copier here, but Zain did such a great job predicting the AFC and the NFC title games and the Super Bowl that it's just that's what I think it's going to be. And I mean, I had a blast watching all those games last year, so I would have a blast again watching these games.
Yeah.
Oh, so you agree with me, though, that the NFC Championship is going to be the 49ers and the Packers, though?
Okay, well, maybe not the 49ers and the Packers, but the 49ers are definitely going to be in it. So,
see, because in this case here, I have the Packers upsetting Detroit in the divisional playoffs.
Okay, then I'll flip you. I'll say it's the 49ers and Lions in that game, but I still have the 49ers coming out on top.
Okay.
That's interesting. So, obviously, I'm going to keep Chiefs Ravens. I just think those two are the best team on that side of it.
Nick, do you agree with me that the game is going to be in KC this time, though?
Yeah, I think Patrick Mahomes, because of the way last year kind of went, having to really fight hard and win those, 2 road games just to get back to the going into Buffalo.
Yep.
And
going into Buffalo and going into Baltimore, yeah.
Yeah, and both games were tough. Those were 2 incredibly tough games that Mahomes had to really pull through.
Yeah, both games were tough. The Ravens game may not have been the most exciting game, but the Chiefs were able to gut it out in the fourth quarter, and that's what matters.
Right. So, and if it wasn't for one bad penalty by Baltimore, we might be talking a different scenario.
Oh, 100%.
So, I don't know. So I like that on that side. I think it is going to be a Chiefs home game, and I think they'll end up winning on that side. For the Niners I like the Niners. I also like the Packers too. Like I said, I think they're going
to. So you agree with me with my NFC Championship game? 49ers over Green Bay?
Yeah, I actually think that's very feasible, actually, at this point in time. So I'm going to take the Niners and the Packers on that front too. I still think the Niners win. I think they're too good offensively. I just think that they have too much firepower. Even though I like the Packers, I think in the next 2 to 3 years, they might be able to hoist another Lombardi trophy again very soon. But I'm going to take Chiefs and 49ers again. And I'm looking forward to a three-peat. I really think the Chiefs are really going to pull through, hopefully, and make some history here. All right. Everyone went on that front. So the last one, hot takes for the 2024-25 season. Now, this is the point where if you have something you want to talk about that you really think is going to stand out for the whole season, this would be the time. I kind of said mine a little bit earlier. I think that the Bengals are going to have a down season, and I think they're going to be 7-10. I'll throw you one more, and this one actually might be more of a hot take. If the Panthers, which I think they might have a chance of not winning any games this year,
wow,
I think Bryce Young is just going to be out the door.
Wow, you're barely giving him a chance.
I mean, he's looked terrible ever since he's entered the league. Like,
yeah, but my argument to that is what help has he realistically had? He doesn't.
I agree.
I agree with you 100% that he needed weapons, but again, the ownership is also letting him down too, which is a whole nother issue. I told you I don't like their ownership; they're in another world. But at the same time, Bryce Young looks like a less than a rookie out there. Like it looks like he's having problems throwing the football at times last year, and the Panthers really need. I don't think he's the answer. Like remember when he was really hyped as the number 1 overall pick, and everyone was expecting him to do big things, and then he just looked lost. And how many seasons are you going to throw away before you find somebody that's really going to lead that team? How many seasons are you willing to waste? So, if they go 2-15 or less, I see Bryce Young possibly being shown the door if that happens. And the last one I guess I'll have is I have the Jets going under 500, but that's not really as much of a hot take.
Right, I'm gonna give 3. So, first hot take that I have is I think in all honesty that if the Eagles miss the playoffs entirely, I think they're going to fire Nick Sirianni. There could have been the argument made that Nick Sirianni should have been fired at the end of last year. I think this is a put up or shut up season. If one of 3 things could get him fired. First thing is they don't win the division, but they make the playoffs and they lose the first game. That could be one reason. Second reason could be they win the division. They go deep. They maybe host the divisional playoffs and they get blown out. And the third one would be if they miss the playoffs entirely. I think if the Eagles are anything but a NFC championship team, he's going to be in the hot seat. That's hot take number 1. Second hot take that I have is I think that the Vikings have a chance to set the record for the most consecutive losses in franchise history to begin a season. I don't know what it is, but I think based on JJ McCarthy getting hurt and based on the lack of quarterback depth that they have a very interesting opportunity in a bad way, obviously, to lose a ton of games. And the third hot take that I have, even though I was praising them earlier in the episode, I do think that if the Steelers ultimately miss the playoffs altogether, I think it's time for the Mike Tomlin era to move on. That's what I think.
I don't know if that's really a hot take though, because Tomlin's had many years there in the organization. If they have a really bad year, I could see them just, as they contractually say, part ways.
Well, I'm going to have to disagree with you there, considering that the Steelers have only had 5 coaches in the history of their franchise. So,
no, but I'm just saying, like, I don't think it would be as hot a take as you're making it sound. Basically.
I guess that's somewhat fair. And then I guess to add on to that, since that wasn't like the hottest of takes, I guess. I'm gonna say that my fourth hot take is I think that Jaden Daniels gets hurt mid-season and misses most of the year. I think he gets hurt.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. I just think that the Commanders have had really bad luck at the quarterback position, and this is just another quarterback in the cycle of guys that can't stay healthy. And this is nothing against Jaden Daniels. He was an awesome quarterback at LSU. This is just the stench of a really bad organization for the last 3 decades that can't get out of their own way and has not adapted fully to their newer ownership. We're still in the old stink of the old regime, in my opinion.
Okay.
Those are my 4 official hot takes, with the fourth one arguably being the one that I feel the most confident about, that he's going to get hurt. And I obviously don't wish injury on anyone. It's just the cycle of how bad the Commanders are. So,
all right, Anthony, what do you think here?
Yeah, I got a couple. Zain, I've said one of the ones that I had. I said it earlier in the AFC preview video. I think the Steelers are going to finish 4th place, and I think this is going to be the last season for Mike Tomlin in Pittsburgh. My other hot take was that obviously I think Caleb Williams is going to have the best rookie season ever by a quarterback, superseding CJ Stroud. There's a couple other ones that I like.
Yeah.
I do think that the Saints. I think the Saints, with Derek Carr and the regime that they have, I think they're going to have a really bad year. And I think they could be doing a complete fire sale this year and going to a complete rebuild. They're really bad with the salary cap right now. I don't think they have a future answer at quarterback. I think Spencer Rattler is going to finish the year at quarterback. This will probably be Derek Carr, I think, last year in New Orleans. So that's my other hot take for that. And then my last hot take, we talked about Dallas a lot. I don't think he's going to win the MVP. But I think Dak Prescott's going to be an MVP candidate, and either Dallas or somebody else is going to make him the highest paid quarterback after this season.
Interesting. Okay, Grant.
Anthony, one more thing to add to that. I think if Dallas is smart, they pay Dak Prescott what he's worth so he could stay in Dallas. In my opinion,
I agree.
I just don't see it. If I'm shadowing for second year, but I think Dak's going to end up somewhere else. I think Jerry's going to play too many games and Dak's just going to walk out the door and leave. Look what happened with the whole CeeDee Lamb situation. He was good. I think he was prepared to let him sit the whole season, and they were not going to figure this contract out.
I think Dallas should pay him, but like you said, Nick, I wouldn't be surprised if he does hit the open market. I think if he re-signs with Dallas, I think he's going to get probably $55.5 to $56 million a year. But if he hits the open market, he might get some team to pay him $60 million a year plus.
One team, like I said, and not, even though I'm a fan, imagine if Aaron Rodgers walks away and the Jets' job were to come open, or the Giants, depending on their situation. I don't know if he would entertain New York. That's a tough spot to be in.
He could get revenge on Dallas playing him twice a year.
Oh, that's a good point. I didn't think about that. But we'll see what happens. All right, Grant, what do you think here? Hot takes.
So I actually have 3 as well, and actually it's because of you, Nick. Thank you. So one hot take that I think maybe not be as hot as others think, but if the New York Giants have a shit show of a season, I believe both Brian Dable and Joe Sheen will be kicked out. Because I can't believe that they're risking their jobs on Daniel Jones. I said it earlier on in this. He has not been the answer, and I don't know where he would go, where Daniel Jones would go afterward, and actually get a chance to compete, because he hasn't had good seasons. My second hot take is I think not only do I think Caleb Williams will have a great rookie season, but I think that all of his top 3 receivers will have the best statistical receiving seasons for a trio of receivers. And my last hot take is I could honestly see if Zahn mentioned how he thinks if Jaden Daniels gets hurt, something bad's going to happen. I think if the Commanders don't have a great season, I think that Dan Quinn could get the boot out of there too, because he wasn't their number one option. They wanted Ben Johnson, who said no at the last minute, and they had to pivot to Dan Quinn. Granted, he built a great staff, but I don't think people like to settle for their second option when it comes to the head of your organization. And those are my hot takes.
So just to go back, basically you're saying Daniel Jones is going to turn into an Evan Neal talking about burger flippers.
Possibly.
I mean, that was the most insane take I ever heard last NFL season. But I don't know. I see Daniel Jones hitting the unemployment line and never being a quarterback again. I mean, maybe as a backup, possibly somewhere. But I just don't think he's an NFL quality quarterback.
I mean, I'm not 100% sold on Daniel Jones, but let's look at his defense. He's never had a great offensive line his whole career. He runs for his life, and I think this year he finally has his first true number one receiver in Malik Neighbors. He hasn't had that true go-to guy, and Saquon Barkley's always been in and on the lineup as well. So I'm not saying I'm a huge Daniel Jones fan, but I think this year we'll get a good test to see if he actually is a good quarterback or not.
And also, they're gonna have to throw the ball a lot more because Saquon's not there anymore.
That was another one, actually, Zain. Thank you. I just remembered this as well. I think Saquon is going to be the reason why Nick Sirianni is going to lose his job.
Oh, too. Wow.
Ooh, that's a hot take.
I think that he's going to get hurt like he always does. They overpaid him in the offseason because they thought they were sticking it to the Giants.
I think they overpaid him too. And don't be surprised, even if the Eagles beat the Giants both times, don't be surprised. I'm going to say this right here on the record. We're recording this August 28th, the evening of August 28th. Don't be surprised if in one of the two games when those two teams play, whether it's in Philadelphia or in East Rutherford, Saquon Barkley, I guarantee when one of those two games will be able to under 100 yards.
I don't know. I don't trust Saquon. Like as I know a lot of Giants fans did last year. Like they trust him. He runs. I think this is the same issue. I think they're going to try and overuse him like they did in New York, and he's going to get hurt. He's going to be out for a significant period of time, and Nick Sirianni is going to lose his job because he relied on Saquon Barkley.
So I don't think they're going to have to rely on Nick. I feel like the Giants, like I said before, they had no receivers, so he was their offense. You know, you got to remember the Eagles do have A.J. Brown. They do have Devontae Smith. They have to feed those guys the ball. They're paying both those guys a decent amount of money. You do also have Dallas Goedert. Obviously, Jalen Hurts is going to run the ball as well. So I think having both those guys in the backfield is going to take a huge workload off of Saquon Barkley. But Barkley does have problems staying healthy, whether he's used a lot or a little.
Right, and that's the problem. Like, they're going to build a game partially around him in the running game, and if he's not there, then you're going to have issues, and I don't know. We'll see what happens, even though I did pick the Eagles to win the NFC East, but we'll see what happens. All right, anything else before we close this out? Is now we've officially made it to the NFL season. Anything left?
Yeah, just as a quick reminder to everyone, 272 games. There's going to be at least 3 games in every window every week per Scott Hansen. So if anyone's excited about watching multiple NFL games in the late window, congratulations. There's your early birthday gift or early Christmas present if you're an NFL fan. And yeah, I mean September 6th can't come fast enough. We have the ring ceremony. It's September 5th in KC, the ring ceremony. Chiefs and the Ravens should be a lot of fun, and it's going to be a race to the finish line. Should be a very exciting season. Fall is officially here. College football is officially starting to get into full swing. You got NFL officially starting to get into full swing here within the next week or so. So it should be an exciting season. It was fun to do all of these predictions with you, and let's see if our Super Bowl predictions can come true. Because if any of you were here last year, I know, Nick, you were. I had the Super Bowl prediction correct. I just did the teams flip, so hopefully I could go semi 2 for 2, but this time actually get the winner correct. So we'll see. So
one last thing I'll ask you: did they put the colors out yet? Because usually, remember how they say that will sometimes determine the.
Oh, that's a good question. Hang on.
So, Anthony, Grant, if you don't know this, the NFL.
No, I know what it is.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Okay, so he's been on the ball with these things like the past couple of years.
Because last year the colors were red and purple, right?
Well, they were. If it was Niners Chiefs, it had to be.
It's red and green according to the image I have up.
So that means it would have to be what?
It would have
to be
KC again.
What?
Eagles KC.
That would be that would be insane. I don't know. That would be a good one.
Yeah, but did you guys realize though last year that the logo they kind of didn't get it right because they were predicting it was going to be 49ers Ravens and it didn't happen.
Yeah,
that's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah, that's what I thought. That's what I thought it was going to be, and it was 49ers and Chiefs.
But one last reminder, though, also our first full episode of the Football Forecast will be on Saturday, September 7th at noon Eastern Time, 9 a.m. Pacific. We will all be there. We are going to make our picks. We're going to have some fun. We'll do some fantasy in there as well. We have our fantasy draft coming up live on Sunday. We'll figure that out with everybody. We haven't announced a time yet, but it's definitely going to be Sunday. It's going to be on our playback stream. So we'll be doing it on there. And I guess that's it. So for Zain Bando, for Grant Winsauer, for Anthony Balester, I'm Nick Morgasen. We look forward to the NFL season 2024-2025, and we will see you throughout the NFL season. Have a good day, everybody.
Have a good day.